So, hello everybody. We're going to start this great webinar for Assistance PSA Suite 2016 Spring release. I'm just going to go through some highlights on the PowerPoint, and then we directly go to a live demo, as we always do, of the solution that is available right now for you to download. I have a question from Andy Neal. If there is a US call-in number, it should be there somewhere in the invite. If it's not, you can always listen in with voice over IP. Hopefully it helps, Andy. If you guys have questions during my session, you can just put the questions in the question box, but I will go through the questions at the end of the Q&A, at the end of the webinar during at least a 10-15 minute Q&A session. Because in most cases we get a lot of questions, so we then take some time to go through all the questions. I will repeat the questions that are put in the chat box, so that means that everybody can hear the question from the other attendees as well. So I'm going to go through the highlights, and then we're going to start with the live demo of the PSA Spring release. So first of all, the Spring release is really where the whole PSA suite comes together, and that means that in the Spring release we really provide our clients, our partners, our end users with a complete suite for professional service automation. So if we look at the full PSA suite, it consists of a lot of different modules. PSA as the core module of the whole suite. Then we have HR, we have financials. We have the specific vertical packages that are completely industry-based, so we have different industry-based verticals. We have, of course, the different mobile apps, portals, and of course the PSA suite is leveraging Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So from lead to opportunity to project to invoice, from funnel to cash is what you get with the whole PSA suite in the Dynamics CRM environment. The highlights of the Spring release I'm going to show you in a moment, but what's important for you to know that in the Spring release also the license model is changed. So if you have an essential license, you have access to time and expenses as you always had, but also to your own utilization, to your own Gantt chart activities, to your own self-service portal in HR. So you get much more functionality for the essential license. That's only $15 list price per user per month. So check out the license matrix that we have on our website, because it's really changed. You get much more functionality for basically the same pricing. The basic license is also extended. A lot of functionality is already all in the basic license, including revenue recognition, a complete new revenue recognition module, completely designed together with medium and enterprise clients, where project managers can basically recognize revenue and review a project. We will show you that in this webinar as well. But that's also a part, the whole revenue recognition module, including the purchase order module of the basic license in the Spring release. So if you download the Spring release, make sure that you also get a new license key if it's necessary. And then of course the professional license will then include the full HR, full PSA, full financials with full accounting capabilities, and we don't have any more an enterprise license. So basically we have 3 licenses: Essentials, Basic and Professional. With Essentials you have much more than only time and expenses. You have your own portal functionality as an employee, your own HR record, your self-service portal record. You can see your own Gantt chart, your own utilization, and with the basic license you will have also access to revenue recognition and HR, all part of basic now. And professional basically extends financials not only as a financial platform but as a full accounting solution. So check out really the new license matrix. It's on the website. If you go to the Spring release basically landing page, you will find all the information in detail. Highlights for this demo that I'm going to show you in more detail. First of all, the vertical packages. PSA is completely tailored for 8 different industries: consultancy, architects, IT services, accountancy, engineers, legal, marketing, and not-for-profit. That means that we have, in collaboration with those users and with groups of users in those 8 different industries. We have designed PSA for that specific industry. So if you go to the PSA Suite Spring release, you can find the import vertical option, where you can basically just import a specific vertical. And a vertical package consists always of 2 elements. First of all, your templates, so hour types, project templates, project groups, project statuses, project types, etc. And also sometimes specific IP that we are providing. For example, for legal, you have specific IP to launch a timer. For the accountancy market, there are specific compliancy IP, where you have surveys that you can basically and assessments that you can have access to from an account or from a project. So the client acceptance process is a part of the accountancy IP. Make sure that if you are a partner and you need to demo PSA, that you identify in which industry that lead or prospect is and download and import that specific vertical. It saves you a lot of time to configure PSA, and you will do a much better job in demoing the solution, because the accountancy template, or for example the architect template, in the case of the States, is in collaboration with the American Institute of Architects, is developed. And when we look at the IT services template, we have examples of templates for service contracts, but also for shoe-step methodologies, etc. We here at Assistance Software, especially for partners, have a whole sales team. We have a sales team in the States, located in Philadelphia. Our VP there is Bo McKay. Make sure if you are in that part of the world that you connect to him, and he can help you with your demo preparations. But also if you are an end user and you want to have a look at best practice for your industry, make sure that you import those verticals. Always import those verticals first in a test environment to see if you like it, and then it will never delete anything. It will just add templates and add basically blueprint information in your installation. But if you have a clean install of PSA, then the starting point would be select a template, and you can then directly create projects, do time entry, expense entry, and create your invoice, because the whole blueprint is pre-configured for your industry. So this feature is available in the Spring release, and I will show you in my live demo where you can find it. The PSA Suite is not just a project management module, it's a full PSA solution, professional service automation, ERP for basically for professional service industry, and that means that it's very important to have a revenue recognition module. So PSA provides previous versions a general revenue recognition module, more a financial driven revenue recognition module, but in the PSA Spring release, it's basically a part of the whole project accounting solution that is a part of the PSA Spring release, and the revenue recognition module is a part of a project. So as a project manager, best practice would be that you review your project at least once a month, and then PSA will do, it will compare your budget with your actuals, with your invoiced revenue, and basically you can then change your percentage of completion and then can decide what you want to recognize as revenue on the project. Especially with fixed fee projects, this is a process that you normally need to go through if you want to follow the general accountancy principles. And it means that basically it's also a moment for the project manager to report to finance what their revenue is, instead of just assuming that all the spent hours is revenue and can be recognized. With the revenue recognition module, you have that review moment. So here if you see my screenshot here, but you see below my screenshot basically the process. So a PM would basically review his project. We'll start the revenue recognition module. PSA will provide then a revenue recognition calculation. In this specific case, we'll see here that the calculation that PSA made is that in this case the calculated completion is 16% based on spent hours and expenses and compared with budget. And now the project manager decides to basically recognize 25%. To be recognized is then 2,280. That is 25% of my in this case total amount, and that will then be recognized and can be sent to basically to your to your financials. So the next step is you send it to your financials. Your financial department can then approve it as well, and then PSA generate the journal entries. The whole financial module of PSA can be used as a repository of all your journal entries for accounts receivable, for revenue recognition, for work in progress journal entries, but also it can be connected to another financial backend to import and to basically have your payments as journal entries processed to invoices. So we basically generate all the journal entries that you can then integrate with any financial backend. Enterprise clients integrate typically with SAP or Oracle, and medium-sized businesses with GP or SL or NAV or all kinds of solutions, QuickBooks, etc. But with PSA Financials, you can also use the PSA as a full accounting solution. And we really get a lot of good feedback from the first users that are using PSA, the PSA Suite, including financials as a full accounting solution. Approval tool on another highlight that is very interesting for to see is basically, we call it also visual approval. So instead of just having an admin approval and go through all the records, we will visually show you basically what the percentage is of billable hours, internal hours, sick hours and leave hours. And also here, you don't see it at this moment, but you will see it in my demo. You see a pie chart of everything that you have selected here, and it will basically, we show you that in the pie chart. Another approval tool, all developed in HTML5 by the way, is the PM approval. We see this screen here. The PM approval in the final version this is the preview of the Spring release, in the final version that will be available at the end of May. You can also change the hours to be invoiced. So basically here we have hours that are booked on your project, and you can then, the vision is that you don't change the hours that are booked on a project because those hours are booked, so that is really actual spent hours. You can change, for example, you can reassign those hours to other items on a project, for example a non-billable item, but you can also change the hours to be invoiced, especially for time and material. This is great functionality. So what will happen is that hours booked is, for example, 12 in this specific case, we see here 12, and hours to be invoiced, I can change it in 16 or in 8 or whatever. PSA will then automatically do a write-off from the work in progress, and of course we'll present the hours to be invoiced in the invoice. Instead of the 12, it will present the 16 hours to be invoiced if I just have a little bit more hours that I can invoice. So also on the employee record you can see what is booked and what is at the end of the day invoiced by you and for that specific resource. So two new approval tools, visual approval tools that's definitely a highlight of the PSA Spring release, and that we're going to have a look at. Project planning. Yeah, project planning. We did so much on the scheduling and resourcing engine of PSA. First of all, we all are familiar with the Gantt chart. But what is great now is that you can create recurring project item activities. One of the RFCs, requests for change, that we had from a lot of customers. Now you can do it. So here I'm creating one project item activity where basically we schedule 5 hours on Monday, 3 hours on Wednesday, and 3 hours on Friday for a certain start and end date, and then PSA create a recurring activity for your project. Another great feature is that in the current version of PSA that you have today, we always have a total number of hours that we spread over the duration of the project item activity. In the new version, the Spring release available today, you can open the editable grid. That is this grid, the editable grid. And the editable grid basically will give you an insight in the workshop, in this case here, the workshop 34 hours. And you can then divide those hours, in this case 2 out of 8 hours on the 24th, 25th 6 hours, and here we have 4, and here 8. So you can actually modify the number of hours manually by day in the editable grid here. So that is great new functionality, and what is even greater is that scheduled will show you, here scheduled will show you also the hours that are already scheduled on previous projects. So we give project managers an insight on the utilization of a resource directly in the Gantt chart. So you don't have to go to the utilization sheet. You can open the utilization sheet and the editable utilization sheet directly here in the Gantt chart, and we give you visibility on already scheduled time on other projects than this project. That is the scheduled time here. Then you can add time, and then we totalize the number of hours that that person will be utilized. So basically, if you have somebody already here scheduled for 16, 20 and 12 hours, and you put more hours against it as a project manager, then this person is not only already overbooked, but you overbook them even more. And you as a project manager directly from the Gantt chart will have insight in the utilization of your resources. So to create new features, recurring project item activities, the utilization sheet, but not only a sheet, the utilization editable grid, where you can basically play with the hours from a project item activity and change them around. Another option what we have here is to reassign. That is very easy then to reassign a whole activity to another resource that I will show you in my demo. Then a complete new feature is not only that we have the utilization sheet, but we also have the availability sheet. Basically a new sheet that will give you just a different insight, same information, but a little bit of different insight and if people are over or underbooked. First of all, you don't have to extend anymore with the plus. You can do it, but you don't have to do it to see if people are overbooked. So here we see that this guy is working on, myself is working on the project expansion, and we see that here directly. Another thing that we have done, the business closure of Microsoft Dynamics CRM, standard business closure, is by organization. We have really big enterprise clients that are more than 30 countries with 12,000 seats that cannot have a business closure generally with one global installation. So the business closure in PSA is now not by, we don't use the business closure of Dynamics CRM, but we have our own business closure that is here in pink, and that is basically by legal entity. So we can directly see that a specific legal entity is closed on that specific Thursday in this case. What we see here in this availability sheet is in color coding if people are overbooked, and then you can directly basically solve the problem with a reassign, or you can open also here the editable utilization grid and play with the hours directly from the availability sheet. You also have this editable grid available in the utilization sheet as well. You can schedule activities from here, you can reassign activities from here, and you can change the hours from here. Because this change will have influence on the project plan, this is a specific security role in the final version, so not everybody will be able to edit the number of hours because it will influence your project plan. The number of hours scheduled can influence potentially your budget and forecasted hours as well. So in other words, this is something that maybe a resource manager would love to have, but not everybody will have access to the editable grid. So there will be a specific security role in PSA if you want to give people access to the editable grid. But we're definitely going to have a look at it from the classic utilization sheet and from the availability sheet. So we have two overall sheets now that you can use. Of course, the utilization sheet will still have the capability to show you also the scheduled people by week, by month, and the editable grid is always by day, by the way. A feature that is coming in the final product is that you can add directly here also, as we call it, general activities. And then general activity is not the same as a project item activity, but the general activity is an activity that is not related to a project, but can be related to anything else. For example, an opportunity, a case, for example, an account or a contact. So let's say I'm working on a very high profile opportunity and I expect that that opportunity will influence my scheduling and influence my utilization. I can already then schedule, let's say David, on an opportunity before I create a project, before I select a WBS structure, before I go any step further. So you can create manual activities, general activities that you can basically directly create here in the utilization sheet, in the editable grid, and just block time for David for that specific opportunity. That part I cannot show you at this moment, but that is scheduled for the final May release, for the final spring release. The preview release, by the way, is something that you need to and want to install in a test environment. We love to have your feedback. If there are any things that we did not see through our testing, we love to have your feedback. And the final launch of the spring release will be the end of May, scheduled now for May 25th. Performance reports. Yeah, a lot of people create reports in SSRS reports. Of course, great. But if you look at the vision of PSA, we have a standard project vision, project approach, BFPA. That means that you always look at your budget, your agreement, your contract value, You look at your forecast, your actuals, and you want to have comparison between budget, actuals, forecast, and contract value. This performance report will really show you the performance on your project from a budget perspective in this case and from an actual perspective. And performance for us is margin. So we look at what is budgeted and what times selling amount is revenue, what is budgeted when we do the same number of hours times cost rate, and what is then the expected margin. So we see here in this performance report that we expect to have a 50% margin on this diagnostic phase and on the high-level design phase based on cost rates and based on selling rates on this project. Then the actuals start to come in, and then we see that the actuals, because maybe other resources are booking time, the cost rate is much lower than we expected, so the margin goes up here. So you see basically directly you can, in a performance report, you can directly fine-tune and look at your project not only from an actuals versus budget perspective, but really from a margin perspective, basically the difference you make between cost rate and selling rate. This also is something that will include, for example, your purchase orders for external costs that you have, and there is also a chart related to that performance report. That performance report and the status report are all developed in HTML5, and they are rendering very fast, and it's something that you would really love to use without creating anything, all out-of-the-box functionality. Then we have configurable portals. Of course, also we looked at ADX Studio, we looked at the portals available, but if you look at those portals, they are super complicated to configure. You get like tons of entities in your system, and it's very expensive. All those three things are solved with the Assistance PSA portals. The portals are a part of the PSA suite. Directly already from the Essential license, you will have an employee portal, and it means that the employee can see in the portal his calendar, can do the time entry in a grid, can do expense entry, can see his own utilization, his own Gantt chart. So all those options are here. This is all configurable. Another thing is that we give access to his profile page. This is basically our HR, human resource management module. So every employee can be created as an HR record. And people can update their own skills, can update their own profile in the profile page. The great thing is about this is that we are leveraging the CRM form and the CRM views. So in other words, you can create a CRM form and you can then basically connect that CRM form to our portal, and we render that CRM form directly in HTML5. So it's really plug and play. You just install the portal as a CRM standard PSA Suite CRM solution. You go to the portal link and it works directly for you. We're going to have a look at the configurable portals. The portal that is now available is the employee portal. We also have portals for the project manager, for the resource manager, and for the financial guys. And the great thing about the portal is that basically, as one of our clients said, RSM, one of the users there said, yeah, with the portal, we basically don't have the overload on options of the dynamic CRM system. We just have a portal for a user, and the user can see what he needs to see. He can see scheduled on those activities. He can do time entry, do some expense entry, and maybe update his profile, and that's it. That's all. And that's also the only thing he needs. The portal will also work directly from an Essential license. We are leveraging in the portal mainly our own entities, custom entities. That means that you can, if you just need a CRM Essential license, and then the portal will work for you and your users. So it's basically, if you look at the different license types we have Essential license. People with an Essential license are now using the portal in most cases. Then we have the basic license. That's really, of course, you will do that in the project managers, as a project manager, as a resource manager, as people that need to approve stuff. You need to have a basic license. You will do that in most cases in CRM, especially if you are a heavy CRM user as well. And then, last but not least, we have also PSA Suite for Power BI, and I will show you that in a moment as well. Then financials. Here in financials, this part, general ledger with the chart of accounts, journal entries, general journals, the inquiry screen, and run processes, especially run processes, is something that every company, every end user should use, because this is your integration gateway. Basically, we generate all the journal entries here for accounts receivable. We generate journal entries for revenue recognition. We generate journal entries for work in progress, and they're all basically here in this entity available. And then it's just a matter of picking up those journal entries and post it to your financials. So if you want to integrate with the PSA suite, you need to leverage the journal entries, and you need to leverage our financial module, especially because revenue recognition and work in progress are all, of course, based on completion, hour entry, expense entry, what's invoiced, what's not invoiced. So to generate those journal entries yourself is a hell of a job. So you don't have to do that anymore, and that's why you need to leverage our financial platform. We are aware of the fact that PSA is growing so fast at this moment. We are growing our company with 30 to 40% last year, and to have just a little bit of an idea of how fast it goes, the growth of the first quarter is 30% higher than the last quarter than the first quarter of 2015. So that means that we're really growing very fast. So we have a lot of new functionality. So all that new functionality will be a part of our Assistance Software Academy that will be launched at the end of May. We will have short workshops on every part of the PSA solution of between 1 and 2 hours. That is for free for all our end users and partners. So this is just to give you an overview, but please make sure that you join. If you want to know more about financials, you join one of those workshops and webinars. Again, you can use financials as your gateway, as your financial gateway of your journal entries to your financial backend, or you can use financials as a full accounting solution with AP functionality, full AR functionality, banking functionality, and of course with all the reports you need, aging reports, collection management, where we automatically send reminders to your clients of invoices that need to be paid, P&L reports, balance sheet reports, journal entry reports, GL reports. Everything is available, and this demo will not go into financials at this moment, but make sure that you follow one of those webinars. Then last but not least, we want to provide a PSA suite as an out-of-the-box solution designed for your industry, and we want to provide a complete experience. So that means that for the executives in our company and in your company, they don't care about the details. They just want to see the big picture. But what we have created basically is PSA Suite for Power BI. So basically what you see here is a PSA management overview, PSA Suite for Power BI. This is already, if you are at the end of this webinar, we will ask you if you want to be a trial user for the PSA Suite for Power BI. What we're doing is the following. We are generating scheduled, you can schedule that, we are generating a cube of all the PSA data based on hours, based on invoiced revenue, based on recognized revenue, all the interesting data, we generate cubes for that. That cube can be posted on, for example, you can have that cube generated on an Azure SQL entity, in an Azure SQL entity, or on your own server, that doesn't matter. And that whole cube has all the data. Then we created reports and we created dashboards in Power BI, and it's just a matter of connecting basically to that Azure or to the data cube that we generate. So the PSA Suite Power BI is really an out-of-the-box experience. You just install our tool that generates the cube, the PSA cube. Of course, all the intelligence is in the PSA cube. Then in Power BI you install our dashboard with reports, and you end up with this great dashboard where you have all drill down options. So in this case I see what's invoiced, I see it on the geographical part, I see what the invoiced revenue is, but I see also my productivity in my company, in this case a little bit low, 55%. I see also the different project types here, and in this case the different projects. And we see here that recurring is very big and the other projects are a little bit lower, and we can drill down. So this is really an executive tool that a lot of executives would love to have, and this is something you don't have to figure out yourself, out of the box available based on all the data in PSA. Enough PowerPoints. We gonna restart from the beginning, and we're gonna show you live all those highlights. To know and for you to be aware where you can find them and how you can leverage them and use them. So I'm going to leave my PowerPoint here. I'm going to discard all my drawings. And I'm going directly here to the PSA Suite. PSA Suite is in a very developed in the latest technology in HTML5. HTML5 is rendered the best in Chrome or Firefox or maybe Edge, but Internet Explorer is not the best HTML5 browser, as you maybe know. That's maybe also why Microsoft started from scratch with Edge. But in this case, I'm running the PSA Suite with Chrome. If you install the full PSA Suite, you will end up with the most three important modules in CRM. That is the PSA Suite, PSA HR, and Financials. If you install also the portal that you just can install, you will have a separate link to the portal. And this, of course, connects back to PSA, so I can do time entry in here, etc. But this is then a separate solution that you can install in your CRM platform. So for our portal to be very clear, you don't need to have a separate server or a separate solution or complicated stuff. You just import our PSA Suite portal solution in your CRM installation. You will have the link and then everything works as you want to have it worked. And then, so basically for a project manager, you want to give them access in most cases and the heavy users to the full PSA Suite. And of course, you will, and then we will do that in the Microsoft Dynamics CRM environment. For the users that will just do time and expenses, want to see their own utilization or just want to manage their own profile, you could give them just access to the portal. And then they can just do time entry here in the grid. And then for the third category of users, the executives, in most cases, you just want to give them access to the PSA Suite for Power BI solution. And that means that in this case, I'm just starting Power BI and I have here my invoiced revenue, my outstanding amount, hours production, and of course I can drill down on those different elements. I will show you that in a moment. What's great about this whole engine is, of course, when I select here a specific project segment. So I want to see what are we doing on annual support. I just click here, and then we basically see everything that we are doing on annual support, including geographical data, and also we see the total amount of revenue and the part of in this case annual support that we have in Q2. I can also drill down and see it per month, for example. First things first, to import a vertical in PSA, it's just a matter, you need to understand that we have 8 verticals, we have 8 Azure servers, and we are managing those servers with vertical templating. So in our cloud, we have set up PSA for architects, we have set up PSA for accountants, we've set up PSA for engineers, etc. And to leverage our best practice setup for that specific industry, it's just a matter of importing the vertical in your installation of PSA. So how to do this? You just go to PSA settings, you open the PSA settings record, and then basically if you open here the settings record, you will find a new option there, and that is called import vertical. So here we see import vertical. The verticals that are predefined by us, you find them here. You select a specific vertical, you hit OK, and then the templates and the project types and the hour types, etc. Are imported in your current installation. We don't delete anything, we just add stuff. So if you have a clean installation, if you are a partner, you need to do demo for IT services, we recommend to start here, but also if you do an implementation for a specific client, we recommend also to start here. So instead of just going through templates, going through hour types, going through project types, and explaining how you can leverage that, how it works, you can just start with the blueprint that we already provide out of the box by importing a vertical for your industry. Create new functionality, and then we have also recommended solutions, so additional solutions by industry. What is in development is, for example, a match engine. What is in development at this moment is also a specific vertical for a specific IP, extra IP for the accountancy market. But to import the whole blueprint of a specific vertical, hit import vertical, and you can then leverage that. Project accounting is completely for project managers in PSA a new experience. So what you can do as a project manager, basically the only person within your organization that really knows what's going on a project should be the PM, should be the project manager. So if there are any surprises in the project or skeletons in the closet, or if there is anything going on that we need to know from a financial perspective, because it will influence revenue, and if it influences revenue, it will influence profit and loss. So in other words, as a project manager, if you want to be at the maturity level, as we call it, supreme project management, you need to basically do revenue recognition. You can only do revenue recognition if you know what's coming, so that means scheduling. You can only do revenue recognition if you know what's your baseline. That means you need to have a budget. So it's really also we can help you with that, because we have in the academy a lot of different functional workshops and training for that. But it really also needs to be a part of your organization if you want to be proactive on your projects and not at the end of the day see, okay, I've spent much more than expected. Anyway, I have created a project here. It's called Global Deployment IFRS Ruling. And in this project, we're going to just do some time entry. I'm going to use the instant timer. Also, that's something that is changed. So if I now start, what I can do, I can start the timer directly without the project, and then later select the project. I can, of course, just start the timer from here, and now the timer is running. But I can also pause the timer, and I can then, as we call it, increase extra minutes or decrease minutes on the timer, and then basically have those extra minutes booked to the project as well. So there are different options there to use. I can also do just an instant time entry. The timer, by the way, is also a part of the portal. So in the portal, you find also here at the right side, you find this little icon. And I have here a pop-up blocker, so I'm going to just undo that. So I click here on the icon, and then in the portal I can directly start the timer. What's great, especially for legal, that as soon as the phone rings you can start the timer without selecting a project. So now we see this project of this timer is running, and here we see the IFRS ruling timer is now automatically put on hold, put on pause, that I started from the other environment. Also, when you start your timer on your phone, we have also the timer functionality on your mobile. We pick up the timer directly from where you ended, where you left. So if you see the timer still running on your phone, so let's say I run out of the office and in the car I stop my timer on my phone, it's the same timer. So that is completely seamlessly integrated with your phone as well. And that's all new functionality, by the way. So in this case, I started the timer without selecting a project, and then later I can select a project. And in this case, I started the timer from the portal. So you don't need to have a CRM basic or professional license. You can just have a CRM essential access license and then use this functionality as well. This being said, if I book time against the project and we have a budget, then PSA will automatically calculate in my revenue recognition module the percentage that should be completed based on the time spent. So in this case, when we look at May 2016, we see here in the revenue recognition process that my contract amount is 9,120. My budget is the same. In this case, it's a fixed fee, and I have the same amounts. It could be different. My previous completion in April was 25%. When I do double click, I see all my history. So I see also in this case for diagnostic that my previous completion was 25%. Let's say I had also completion in March, then we would see that previous completion as well. Then here I basically told the system, okay, 60% is calculated completion based on spend time versus budget, but I want to, I think I was a little bit further in the project, and basically diagnostic phase is completely done. So I'm going to recognize not 60% but 100%. So to be recognized is the full amount. And in this case I'm going to save it, and I'm going to post it to my financial department. As soon as you post it to your financial department, PSA will then present it to your financial department, and they can then accept it or reject it, and they can basically change it as well. So in financials, you see here all the recognized revenue by project manager. So when I go to revenue recognition by a specific legal entity, in this case financial period 5, we should see here everything that is that we can recognize. We can then approve it, and then if we just hit OK, then the journal entries will be generated automatically for the revenue recognition. So basically, it's collaboration between the PM and the financial people. In the project, you can also put a project on auto review. So if you don't want to have that interference of the project manager, that the project manager first needs to do the review in the revenue recognition module, you have a setting, and that is in the financial section. And here you can say, okay, this needs to be auto review, and that means that basically you skip the PM step, and then the recognized revenue will be done by your financial people and not by the PM. But normally I would recommend that the PM will do it, because even if you don't use the revenue recognition module from a financial perspective, the great thing is when I go to, in this case, let's say period 6, I can just see where we are. So I can directly from here, I can see, okay, we spent 16%, we are completed 100%, so that goes very well. In this case, I see we did not spend anything, and I'm going to put the completion, for example, here also on 100%. And I hit save. As soon as I hit save, the completion is updated on the high-level design item as well. So as soon as we create, for example, an invoice, then we will see the 100% completion as well. So here in the invoice we see the 100% completed as well, and then PSA of course will recommend to invoice the full amount. So you can really also use the revenue recognition module if you don't want to use it from a financial perspective as a review moment, and so your project managers are really reviewing where you are in the project. Talking about reviewing, we have created a new approval functionality. It's not really new approval functionality, it's better and I think more user-friendly approval functionality. The first the approval functionality that's still there is the standard approval functionality, where you have a time card, or you can just select a few admin approval and you can basically hour by hour select what you want to approve. And the same with the PM approval, and here you can do PM and admin approval. So it's not that we have different approval functionality, but we have, and you can also reject by the way, but we have I think more visual and better approval functionality, but the approval flows, admin and PM approval, will stay the same. Basically in the PM approval functionality we have a certain period, of course. In this case the user is myself, and then here we can select a specific project. Let's say global IFRS ruling, and here we see the time entries that I just did, and I can approve it from here. The final version will also have the chart here. In the preview we don't have that at this moment, and you can directly, here is an editable grid, you can change the number of hours that you like to invoice. So that's in the PM approval, and that last part is still something that we are finalizing at this moment. The admin approval is already finalized, so we have the chart in there. It's a little bit nicer to show you. So in this case, I'm going to just look at the hours of spent by David. You can approve a full time card, or you can approve, just with the date selection a specific user. So in this case, I'm going to approve David, and I'm going to just select a little bit a bigger period. I'll just give that a little refresh here to make it a little bit more interesting. So here we see in the KPIs here at the right side, we see all the hours of David and what he spent on internal, production, sick and leave. So let's select another resource just to show you that that will change. We can then basically hit refresh here, and in this case everybody's 100% productive, so that can happen. But basically what we see here is everything that is booked in the past. Here we can select all or deselect all. So we can select here all or deselect all. I'm gonna just see if I have some more interesting data here to go a little bit more into the future. I don't know if we booked some hours there. But when I select or deselect all, we see directly the difference between billable project and non-billable projects. So, for example, when I select here James, we see that we have some internal projects as well. And as soon as you basically check hours here, if they're in this case, and they need to be approved by the PM first, but as soon as I select here hours, we will see the chart changing here. So I'm just going to go back to David here. And you see here there's 12% internal, 80%, 88% in production. And when I now select everything, we see here hours to approve. So that's what I've selected here at the left side. And we see here basically the internal hours and the production hours. So it gives you an insight on what David in this specific period, November 11 till August 19, did in the past. So he was 12% internal, 88% productive. If it's green, yellow or red, the alert depends on his productivity percentage. And then when I'm selecting the lines, it will create the same bucket of hours for production, internal, leave and sick. So I can directly see, hey, somebody was a long time sick, is that correct? Or there's a lot of internal stuff, maybe there's something wrong with the project setting. So it's very visual, because with a lot of discussions with our users, we learned basically that people always hit, they select all and they approve, and they're not really serious looking and analyzing it. So with this more visual way of doing an analysis, you have a much better approval process. So that's the new approval process that we have here in place. I see people putting questions. Definitely hang in there, and I will go through your questions after the first highlights we showed you. Then we have a new functionality on the project planning, and the project planning. I'm going to show you that with my global deployment IFRS project. So first of all, I promise you we have recurring now. So if we go to the Gantt chart, what I can do in the Gantt chart now is create a recurring activity. So let's say I do need to do 2 times a training, Monday, Tuesday, in the month of June, and it's a part of my diagnostic phase. It's a key user training. User training, and it will start basically here in June, and it will end. It will start here. Let's say it will start Monday, June 13. Sorry, Monday, June 13, and it will end here 27. What I have now as an option, I can go to recurrence, and I can say, okay, it's 8 hours on Monday and it's 8 hours on Tuesday. I hit OK, and I hit save. Then PSA created automatically basically the total number of hours, of course. So that total number of hours will then be updated, and we have here the activity as well. So here we have the key user training. And in this case, I did not select a resource or a resource type. Another thing what we have done is we have also created an editable grid in here. So what you can do directly from here now is you can see I did not put this to any resource. But in some cases you need to know if the resource is available or not, and that makes maybe the decision which resource you will select. Or it's sometimes also the other way around. You want to have the resource, let's say you want to have the resource Julie, that's for sure. So what you can do, you can connect this to Julie, hit save, And then when you connect it to Julie, you can see when Julie is available, and you can do that with the editable grid. So here what's new is that in the Gantt chart, you have the capability to basically look at the team members of the project, and it will show you in detail how people are utilized, what they are scheduled on, and the total hours that are scheduled. So that's something that we will load here at this moment. So what we see now here, we see basically the same information in a different format. So we see here, instead of we see the activities, of course here in the Gantt chart we see the activities, but here we see it by resource. So here we see that Julie is scheduled for 24 hours for the key user training, and here we see very clearly that she's scheduled 8 hours here, 8 hours here, 8 hours here. That's that recurring pattern that we put in there. And we see also, and that's really very nice, we see also that she is already scheduled on other projects. So in other words, we see here, if we hover over here, the first scheduled task are multiple projects, but other projects. So we see 5.12 hours. And if we hover over this, we see that she's scheduled for this healthcare claim data analysis project for 0.4 hours. And here we see the other hours here as well. And when we hover over here, we see that she's even scheduled on 2 projects. In this case, those 2 projects, client A and the other project. So this is the scheduled time on other projects. So what I can do, I can say, okay, I want to schedule her as well on this day, let's say another 8 hours. But as soon as I do that, we see it will turn up red. So now over-scheduling her, but of course she's already scheduled 5.12 hours on other projects. So when I schedule her for this key user training another 8 hours, she needs to work 13 hours this day. And because she works only 8 hours a day, it will show you that it is a red indication that she is overbooked. So basically what we're doing here, we're doing a lot of different things here. We show a project manager the utilization of resources on other projects. That's the first thing we do here. The second thing we do here is that you can directly edit the number of hours here. So let's say Julie spends also here another day on training and here also another day on training. We can just book that here directly in here in the sheet. We show you what the consequences are that she is overbooked. And as soon as you update the number of hours here in the editable grid, in the utilization grid, you will notice that when I refresh the Gantt chart in a moment, that the activity will be extended because I booked more hours as well, plus the budget on hours is also increased. What we see also in some companies that they work with as called a dream team, so they just schedule a person and then they see when that person is available, and based on the availability of the person, the activity will be scheduled in a certain time frame. So that's something that we see as well. So you have a little issue here with the responsiveness of this page. Just do a reload. So that is the functionality that we are providing with the editable utilization grid. So you can directly basically see the utilization of your team by just opening the editable utilization grid. So I can see here now that Julie, how she is scheduled on other projects, and directly here on the key user training, I can change the hours directly here. And we see now that her activity is extended. So I had a little performance issue, but it's saved. I can also have another approach. I can, for example, say, okay, we need to do the deployment of the PSA suite. At this moment, for example, let's put another activity there as an example. So let's say I need to do handover. Now, the handover, I'm sure that the handover needs to be done by myself because I was the project manager. So the only person that can really do the handover is me. Notice that at this moment I did not schedule any hours. I did not select any hours, so the number of hours is still 0. And I don't care really that this is in May 23. I'm just going to see now when Martijn, when I am basically available to do this handover. So now when we scroll down here, we see myself. We see that I'm scheduled on handover. but the number of hours is still 0 because I did not put in the hours. So now I can basically see when I'm available here. So here we see the dates. And so this is Sunday, June 12th, June 13, etc. I know that the handover needs to take place in June, but it doesn't matter which day. I just want to see when he's available. So I see here that I'm scheduled here 4 hours on this activity on a tax return, but there is room to basically work on the handover here. So it takes 2 days. So I put 8 hours here, 8 hours here. I hit save. And basically now when we refresh the Gantt chart, we see that this is now booked. And we see here the 16 hours 2 times 8 that I'm scheduled on that activity. So I call this the dream team approach. So in other words, I know for sure this activity needs to be done by Julie. I just create the activity already, assign it to Julie, and then I'm going to see in the utilization grid when she's available and then assign the hours. So there are different approaches here that you can have. Another thing in the Spring release is that you can also, let's say, the deployment of the PSA suite. What you can also do with the requirement tab is directly see who is available with a certain skill, for example. So I can here select a skill, and now we are touching our HR component. So I can select here CRM applications, and I see here all the people that are available and have a higher percentage than 50%. So Julie is available in this period, and Mohammed is available in the period. And I'm going to select, in this case, I'm going to select Mohammed here, of Julie, Mohammed, hit add resources, and now Mohammed is scheduled on this specific activity. And in this case, this activity takes 58 hours, and those 58 hours are divided for Mohammed. So in other words, when I refresh the utilization grid and we look at Mohammed, we see here this activity was deployment PSA suite. So we see deployment PSA suite, and we see here then the number of hours when I refresh it. So that's something. It could be that something I did something wrong here, but we then see the hours divided here, and make sure you can always change here in the cells the number of hours or add number of hours. So that is all the capability that we have here in the project planning and in the Gantt chart. So we have the utilization sheet, we have the editable grid, and we have the recurring activities. For the resource manager, we have a new sheet that's called the availability sheet. And the availability sheet is in collaboration with RSM, one of the bigger enterprise accountancy firms in the States. In collaboration with them developed. And the feedback we got from RSM was basically that they love the solution, but they don't want to drill down to see if people are overbooked or overutilized or underutilized. So in this case, I can see directly here that I'm red. And when I hover over, I don't have to open anything. When I hover over with my mouse, I see that I'm scheduled on 3 projects: AdventureWorks, expansion plans, 8 hours a day; AdventureWorks tax returns, 1.6 hours a day; and Infotake test, 5.7 hours a day. So definitely too much. What I can do now directly from here, I can make a decision that, for example, this audit can be done also by Arjan, because I see Arjan is completely available. So I can do a reassign directly here in the availability sheet, and I'm going to book this. I'm going to give this to Arjan. Hit OK, and now the activity, the audit, is reassigned. So when I refresh, those audit hours here are reassigned directly to this test for Ellie, and the audit hours are reassigned, as you can see here, to Arjan. So that's great. The reason that it turns up red here is because this is a free business day, and yeah, he needs to work, so that's why it turns up red. So now I see that I am less red. I still have issues here, but I'm less red for that period. So this is a way how you can do it. So you don't have to extend everything to see which projects people are booked. You can just hover over and see in this case that this person is booked on 2 different projects, expansion plans and test for Ellie, 8 hours here for something else, and I can then reassign directly from here. Another thing that we have here in the availability sheet is also the editable grid. So I can just open the editable grid, and I see the resources that I've selected here, my filtering based on user, audit team, skills, or whatever. And here we see, for example, that David is scheduled on his work hours are 9 hours a day. That's his working schedule. These are the different activities that he is scheduled on. He's doing text preparation for this project. He's doing some kickoff for this project, other things for this project. He is doing a fit gap analysis for this specific project. And here we see also the number of hours. I can directly add hours or change hours directly here. So let's say, whatever reason, I know for sure that the training, I need to basically have some more training hours here. I can then put the hours directly here. And we see directly here the influence on the utilization. So he works 9 hours a day. We schedule on those different activities. That's 10.7 hours. That's still okay for him. But you will see if I put 16 hours in here, it will turn up red because it's 22.7 hours. So that's not what he wants to do. And I can then save, and now be aware that your activity, your project plan is now changed directly from here. You influence that by changing the activity directly from here. What you also can do here is you can solve problems, so to speak. So in other words, we see here that I have still issues here. I'm completely red. So the utilization grid will give me very visual that same problem. We see here the problem is 16 hours. And that's because I'm working on the conduct fit gap analysis, and that overlaps basically with the audit report. And the audit report overlaps with another audit report. So in this case, I'm going to make a decision to at least let somebody else do the conduct fit gap analysis, and I'm going to give this to a resource that is available in that period. So in this case, we're looking here at Monday, May 9, and here Monday, May 9, we see that Andre is completely gray, so he's available. So I'm going to give this to Andre. So just reassign from here, select Andre, hit OK, and now this activity is reassigned. So when I refresh my utilization grid here and we look at my name, we see that I'm less red. I don't do the fit gap analysis anymore. When we look at Andre, we see that he is now scheduled on the fit gap analysis activity. When we refresh also the availability sheet, we see here is now booked here and I'm not red anymore here. So resource management is solving a puzzle in most cases. And this is the way how you can solve the puzzle with all the functionality we provide you here. You can edit the number of hours, you can change the number of hours directly here in the utilization grid. You can reassign activities. And you have directly insight in people that are overbooked and the utilization of those people directly here in the availability sheet. So as soon as you need more detail, you can open up the editable grid here. The editable grid, because it's editable, will be a separate security role. So you don't want everybody to edit. As a project manager, I don't want people to edit my activities and just change 40 hours on budget to 60 hours. The reassign is something that is typical a task of a project manager. So still I have here an issue and I can see still that that's because of some auditing that I need to do here, and I'm going to still give this to, for example, I'm going to give this activity to somebody else. So we reassign this activity and I'm going to reassign it to Arjan, and now this is reassigned. When we refresh this, we see that I'm less red, and now I'm almost solved all my problems. I still have a problem here, and to just finalize my demo story, I'm going to see where that problem is. And what we see here, that overlaps with those 4 hours here. 4 plus 8 is 12. I don't work 12 hours a day in this system. So in this case, I'm going to give those 4 hours to Leonie. And I'm going to reassign this to Leonie. And be aware that I'm all looking at people with the same capabilities, because they're all a part of the audit team. So that's why it's very logic to reassign. So now we see we don't see red anymore, and we have solved our resource challenge with a couple of clicks. You can do the same in the classic utilization sheet, so to speak. So in other words, the utilization sheet that we already had for a long time is also optimized for this functionality. Things that I can do here are also popping up the utilization grid. We have the same capabilities here. So here we see that I'm working here 12 hours. In this case, when I'm just scrolling down here, we see those 12 hours. We see also what the issue is here. the challenge that I'm doing, activities, here 4 hours, 8 hours, and we can also say, okay, I'm going to reassign it from here to another resource that is available. So we see, for example, that Leonie is not booked on anything here, she's completely empty. And I can just book those activities, for example, those 4 hours on the functional design document to another resource directly here, also in the utilization grid. So I can do it here as well. So when we refresh this, we will see that those 12 hours problems are now solved, and they are scheduled for those four are scheduled for Leonie. In the Spring release, the final product, you can also create, as we call it, general activities that are not related to a project, but just related to something else, like an opportunity or a case, or you can just block time. So you don't have to create a project to schedule people. And so that's new functionality that will be a part of this release as well. And of course, here we can also do an analysis of the weeks for a longer period. And we see that people are booked or not booked or overbooked per week, and we can still have the grid per day. So that's something. So as we see a challenge here, week 26, that okay, she needs to work 50 hours. She works normally 45 hours. She works 50 hours, so that's why it turns here up in yellow. And then we can basically go in that period in June, and those two data picks are connected, but you can change them then. So I can just focus here on another period, or just focus on that period in June in the utilization grid, and it inherits basically the resources that we have selected here. So here we see Julie, and here we see that those 9.4 hours is the challenge that we see basically building up here. I need to respect time, so I need to hurry because we're a little bit over already. So I'm going to the next topic. That's the performance report. We already looked at it a little bit, so I'm just going to show you where you can find it. So as a project manager, if you do your revenue recognition, you also want to see what your status is of your project. So here you see a performance report that will show you budget, your percentage, your margin, your actuals and your margin, budget minus actuals. You can pull up a chart with some chart information on actuals, budget and forecast. And you can also run the classic report that is called the status report as well. And you see how fast it runs. It's all generated in HTML5. We have the portal, of course, available, where you can do time entry directly in the portal. Same functionality as you used in PSA, but you don't have to start the whole CRM solution. So you basically lose the overhead of dynamic CRM with all the options, but people can just focus on doing time entry in the portal. And the portal is completely configurable. That means if you go to profile, in this case my profile, you will see the HR record that you can configure yourself. And this is now live generated in HTML5. So basically what we see here, we see general employment information and system. These are the tabs. And this is the form that you can configure yourself. So in PSA, you will find in PSA settings, you will find a new option, PSA portal roles. And here I can configure which what I will give access to. So let's say this person only needs to do timesheet, no and expenses, but no utilization, no Gantt chart, no sales forecast. Here I see I'm connecting to the portal this portal form. That's a form in CRM, and we render that form then in the portal. So if you change the form, the portal is changed as well. If I just change the role here, and those people are connected to this portal user, and we're going to back to the portal and do a refresh here, we shall see now that we have less options in the portal. Another thing in the portal is that people can do a request for leave, and this will be pushed in HR. And if HR approves it, the person can see that it's approved leave request. Then it will end up in, of course, his timesheet, and that will also be end up in the utilization sheet and the availability sheet. So as soon as you have requested leave, we generate, as we call that, PTO hour records, and they will show up directly into the utilization sheet and availability sheet. So you don't have to create time off records anymore. We'll describe that, of course, in more detail, but just to be sure that you understand that time off and business closure, those elements are changed when you compare it to the previous version of PSA. Just to respect time, I'm going to jump to the PSA Power BI engine. So what we have done out of the box, we generate the data cube of all the PSA data, and we created a dashboard. This is something that will be we will have different versions of all those Power BI charts, but we will increase functionality here as we have more users. In this case, we have here the invoiced revenue by quarter. We have here invoiced revenue 280k, outstanding amount 206. So we invoiced 200 almost, but nothing is paid. We have here hours production, hours internal. When we go to invoiced revenue, just by clicking on this, we can have select a specific date period. So we can say, I want to see everything that's invoiced in this period, and then everything will change here. We can select also a specific project type. So what we invoiced commercially, what we invoiced annual support, and we see directly that all the elements are changing. So we see here, in this case, commercial, we invoiced some stuff in the United States. We can increase the map here. We can show everything here. We see we invoiced a lot of stuff here in Santa Cruz, and we can always go a step back to the report. So everything is completely connected. Of course, by legal entity, by department. So we can select everything. We can select a specific legal entity, consultancy, for example, or a specific legal entity directly here, or just unselect specific legal entities. And everything is then directly updated. So we see that for this legal entities, what we are doing from a geographical standpoint, in this case from a quarterly standpoint, and also from a type standpoint. Here we can directly drill down, so we can maximize this, and we can drill down here by month. We can drill down also by year. We can drill up as well, so we can go to quarter, or we can go to year as well. So that's all a part of all the functionality that we have here. We go back to the report. We have also here information, what is invoiced by type, what is invoiced by resource. So we see also my top resource is in this case Stan, and we see other resources with less revenue attached to them. And here we see again the geographical information, and we see here also the hours, the percentages, and the hours sick, internal, vacation, and leave. If we want to know more about production, for example, we can do here analysis as well. So we see here production 55%, 45 internal, 17 leave, 30% sick, with 34 active employees. Let's say I want to just see Assistance Software Group, or just want to see Assistance Software North America. Those figures are changing. We can do here filtering quarter, month, week, day, year, and then we can basically change here the scope of that specific filter. So that's all functionality that's available here in the PSA suite for Power BI. Again, we generate that cube from your existing PSA database, and you can then just connect Power BI to this cube. A Power BI license, a professional license, is I think $10 per user per month, and then you have access to all this functionality. And of course, if you download and install the reports, if you want to change those reports and dashboards, you are also capable of doing this. But out of the box, we deliver all this key performance indicators for your executive and management team. For the people that have a hard stop at this moment, I just and then we go to Q&A. I just want to let you know recommended next steps. Download the preview. You can do that by going to assistancesoftware.com/spring release with the dash in between. We are working on having a global PSA Suite user group. If you leave this webinar, you get an email from us, a survey, where you can answer two questions. Question one, do you want to be a part of the user group? And question two, do you want to also be a part of the board? We're looking for board members, chairman, and other board members. So we hope that if a lot of people are a part of the user group, then we can have a democratic voting for the board. Yeah, please sign up for the global user group. Follow the free academy workshops. something I really want to recommend. We will keep you posted, of course, as soon as it's available, end of May. And we have a great booth at the WPC with all our sales staff from the States and from Europe available there to train you, to help you. So we invite you, but you will get additional emails for that to come to the booth in the WPC in Toronto. I would like to just ask you one question. It's always nice to know. Will you install the Assistance PSA 2016 Spring release? If you will answer this is something we always like to inform our R&D team what the voting is. So I see we have 30% of the votes in. So if you want to just say yes or no, that would be great. I'm going to communicate this to my R&D team that worked very hard on the full Spring release with PSA, HR, the portal, Power BI, etc. So see we have almost 60% in, so it would be great if we have a majority in. And I'm going to close the poll in 20 seconds from now. So please, if you did not vote yet, make sure you vote. And we're almost at 60%, need just one more vote, a couple of more votes. Yes, we are 66%, so that's great. I'm going to close it now in 3, 4, 2, 1 seconds. Yes, this is good. Thank you so much. So I'm going to close it now, and I'm going to share what you guys had voted. So 100% score, that's great. So 100% of you will install the PSA Spring release. So I'm very, very happy with that. I want to thank everybody that doesn't have time for the Q&A for their time. Excuse me for the 15-minute overrun of the webinar. And I'm now going to the Q&A. So if you want to hang on for the Q&A, please feel free to hang on. And I'm going to just open the question box now. And I see there are a lot of different questions. So I got a question from Israel Nekret. I think it's already answered. Is the availability sheet the replacement of the utilization sheet? Now the answer is no. Both are available. So the utilization sheet, as you know, and the availability sheet will be available as well. So I think, Israel, that's an answer to your question. And you ask already, will both sheets will be available? And the answer is yes. Where can we download the verticals to test? Yeah, that's a part. It's a question from Andy. It's already left, but maybe other people are interested. Yeah, that's the import vertical option. So we can go to PSA settings, import vertical. If you want to test those verticals, best practice would be create a trial for CRM, download PSA Suite and import the vertical there. Then you're absolutely sure that it will not affect anything that you have live or in test in your own test and acceptation environment. Then we have a long question from Tara Sinclair. When you are providing all of the access to the project managers and other users, does the security access include the employee records? That record should be limited to HR and employee. It's associated to be accommodated in this release, or is the personal information on employee records available to most of the organizations? Very good question, Tara. In HR, the employee record is a separate entity, especially for those personal reasons. So basically you connect a CRM user to an HR employee in PSA, and because it's a separate entity, you can have different security there. So that means that in our company, for example, the HR records are only accessible by our HR department and our executives within our company. So you can completely close this from the rest of the company without any issue. So hopefully that was an answer to your question, Tara. Then a question from Ed. Can you import more than one vertical within the same CRM tenant? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. So that's not a problem, because we just add templates and hour types to your installation of PSA. And you can have, for example, we see sometimes legal and accountancy that they import both. So that's not a problem. Then we have a question from Sean. I see that the revenue recognition now works by project item. Does it as well work for the project that have a mix of T&M and fixed fees? Yes, very good question, Sean. Great question, by the way. Yes, the revenue recognition is not by project, but is by project item. So that's why you can do T&M and fixed fee mixed on one project and do still revenue recognition. By the way, if it's T&M, the revenue recognition module will always recognize all the spent hours. So we'll be basically look at completion 100%, and for T&M and fixed fee, you can influence the completion. So there's a different behavior there, but the revenue recognition is done by project item. Another question from Sean, what are the different options for revenue recognition modes at the project level? Yeah, T&M is one of them, fixed fee is one of them. You can do auto review or PM review, and I would recommend to follow one of the financial workshops scheduled in June to see the difference there and the level of detail. Question from Loop, will it also work in the batch invoicing? I don't really understand the question, but batch invoicing is something, if you recognize revenue and completion is done or finalized items are completed, then of course it will pick it up in the batch invoicing as well. A question from Marcus, is there any plan to handle overtime stuff on time cards like leave, balance? Now leave is already, if there will be an overtime balance, question from Marcus. Yes, that is scheduled for the summer release, that you can have multiple banks of hours, for example, for overtime. So that will not be a part of the spring release, Marcus, but it's scheduled multiple banks of hours for the summer release. That's definitely on the roadmap. Marcus, again, it would be great to have a note field on the timesheet entry form that the project manager can publish to team members. We have the internal note at this moment, Marcus, so that is normally leveraged for this kind of internal notes, because the internal notes will never be a part of the invoice, and you can access the internal notes directly in the timesheet. So hopefully that helps. Then a question from Toan. It's often that the project managers can't book hours on the project and the mostly changes needs to be approved by a line manager. Do you have a solution for that or advice how that can be solved? Normally the line managers will use the admin approval, and the admin approval is the last approval in most cases, and as an admin with the admin approval rights, Toan, you can change always anything and everything before you create, for example, the invoice. A question from Michelle, can you change the invoiceable hours after the booked hours have been PM approved? Yes, that is something we are going to do, because then it needs to be done on the invoice. So you need to understand, if you create, if the PM changes the hours to be invoiced from, let's say, 12 to 16, then the 16 hours will show up on the invoice, and then the 16 hours can be changed there as well, so you can still change it there. So the answer is yes. Then a question from Marcus again. Does the availability sheet also show vacation and other availability time? Answer is yes. That is yes. Then a question from Tara. If I modify the employee form that is displayed in the portal, when I upgrade PSA next time, will my changes still be on that form as well as any new functionality fields, or will I apply the new fields from the PSA upgrade? Or will I have to reapply my changes? No, it will be directly available on the form, Tara. So basically what is happening, the portal is connected to the employee form, whatever form it is. So for example, we created a separate form because we don't want to show all the fields to the employee. As soon as you put more fields in there or you change that, the portal will directly follow. It is rendered basically as soon as you start the portal, it will pick up the metadata from the form. You don't have to compile anything or put it on another server. We directly look into the metadata of the form. So it's rendered real time from the form to the HTML5 form in our portal. So you don't have to redo stuff. What is the difference of status and performance report? Difference is the performance report shows the margin, and the status report doesn't show the margin. The performance report shows also the predicted margin, the budget, and the cost related to that, while the status report doesn't show those costs. So just a different approach. When is this release available? Now, at this moment. So the preview is at this moment available. If you go to assistancepsa.com/spring release or downloads. The percentage completed, question by Loop, that is manual put to 25%, even if the real is 60%, will affect the invoice in the batch invoicing invoice installments. Now the installments is a different percentage, so you can invoice something that is much higher, so I can invoice 60% upfront, and the completion is really what is delivered. And the calculated completion is what PSA calculated. And the completion, what is really delivered, is something to be compliant with the general accounting principles, is what you can recognize as revenue. Last question from Michelle. Must the resource be assigned to the project item activity if the booking restriction is checked and forced? Also, must the hour type and hours be assigned when the resource is assigned to the project item activity? Michelle, I don't understand this question. I'm very sorry. Maybe we can take it offline and send just me an email, Michelle. I don't understand this question. I'm very sorry. Marcus, it's more like give information to project members for the project, like how to manage truffle stuff as sample. It's getting late, guys. It's more like, I don't understand that question, Marcus. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. Thank you, Michelle, for resending the question directly by email. Marcus maybe should do the same. Last two questions, guys. Jean-Francois, are you working on a manual replacement of the remaining hours for an activity? Are you working on a manual replacement of the remaining hours for an activity? Oh, manual replacement. I was thinking about the manual. Are you working on a manual replacement of the remaining hours of an activity? At the moment, the balance is always calculated from the budget spent hours. My client wants to be able to override the remaining hour numbers without changing the original number of hours. What we have scheduled, Sean, is budget versions. So you can have different versions of a budget. So that means if you create a project plan, you can generate an initial budget, and if you change your project plan, you can create a second budget. So that's something that's scheduled, and that will solve this problem, I think, Sean. Last question. Many thanks. Thank you, Sean. Okay. Last question, Jesper Rosenberg. Have you had the time to reflect how the new project module in CRM 2016 Spring Release will affect the PSA Suite? Yes, we had. Basically, we don't recommend to install the project module of CRM 2016 because you don't need it. The functionality is very, very limited. That's why we cannot leverage it. There's no financial functionality, no HR functionality. The PSA functionality is not really in there. That's why it's called a project module. So basically, it's an addition to CRM, very expensive, by the way, as well. And we don't leverage that, and you don't have to use it, and you don't have to install it. I think we are at the end of this webinar. I want to thank everybody all over the world to attend this webinar. Thank you so much, and we are looking forward to meet you all in Toronto and to have you as a part of the global user group. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.